Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight on another episode of Breaking Reality. Tonight we have Demian and Gover with us, and we are going to be discussing the law of attraction in our series on the universal spiritual laws. Hey, Demian, how you doing, buddy? It's glad to have
I'm
you
doing
back.
great. Gosh, thanks for having me on the show again.
Oh man, as many times as you want to show up, you know you are welcome.
So, what are we talking about today? The law of attraction?
Working with the laws.
Working with the law. Yeah.
And we're going to be discussing the law of attraction. This is like, to me, I when we talk about the spiritual laws, the law of attraction to me is like the pretty girl in school. She gets all the attention, and no one else really pays attention to the other people that's around her. And I kind of feel that's how the law of attraction is. It's the one that gets all the attention. Yet
all the attention, but they don't know that pretty girl either. As much attention as they're paying, they don't know her a bit.
Exactly. And it's the one everyone's like, well, I've watched The Secret, so I know the law of attraction.
So what have you done?
Exactly.
What have you done with that? Okay, so let's jump right in.
Absolutely,
okay.
That's how we do this.
Okay, just to get started, let's talk about a couple of ways that people seem to respond lately when they hear about the law of attraction, or they're talking about the law of attraction. There's the group of people who are like, no, that's not how the way the world works. My thoughts are private. What's going on in my head is in my head and in my head alone, and what I think affects nothing. And then there's the people who will tell you, oh, no, let me explain spirituality to you. The law of attraction is complete and total bullshit. And then they'll proceed to spend the next 15 minutes exactly describing the law of attraction.
Right.
Because that phrase has become a commercialism. They don't want it. They don't want to attach themselves to something that sounds too commercial, and that's that is what that is. So let's talk about reality, which your show is Breaking Reality. So we're here to break it. Let's talk about reality, truth.
Right.
Okay, first of all, before I say anything about the law of attraction, I'm going to make some assumptions. Okay, I assume that you want to enjoy life.
Yes.
And I'm going to assume also that you would like to enjoy life more.
Absolutely.
I'm going to assume that if you're like any of the rest of us, life is difficult. It's frequently painful and confusing. Lots of ups and downs. Hopefully more ups and downs. But occasionally there's a lot of frustration and disappointment. And I'm going to assume that you would like to know how to deal with those things.
Right.
In a real way. Maybe learn some things about the way you work, learn some things about the way the existence works that you could use to change the way you look at things and live life in a more effective way. People are going to say, oh, spirituality isn't about getting things, and it isn't about your life being nice. It's not about, spirituality isn't about you being happy. Spirituality is about you being holy, and God doesn't want your happiness. God wants your holiness.
Don't you know you can't be holy unless you suffer?
Unless you suffer. Oh wow, yes, there's holiness and purity and suffering. I would argue that there is education and potential for growth in having suffered.
Right.
Having suffered in the past is okay. It's okay. It doesn't damage you. It doesn't injure you. It doesn't taint you. It doesn't make you unworthy in any way. suffering is an opportunity for education. There's no failure in having suffered. But at the same time, I don't think there's any credit in continuing to suffer.
Right.
I don't think it has to be that way. And so let's talk about if we're going to attract stuff, what are we attracting? And also, I'm going to assume that you haven't diligently watched the previous installments of this series where we're talking
Right.
about the universal laws. I'm going to assume that you haven't diligently studied Raymond Hollowell's book, Working with the Law. I'm going to assume that you saw, Law of Attraction podcast. Well, I'll watch that.
Hold on, hold on.
Um,
So the things I want to attract is a brand new Cadillac with gold plated rims, a nice yacht, the winning lottery numbers.
if that's what you want, awesome. But the thing is, are you attracting those things because those are the things that you believe that you're going to enjoy, or is what you really attracting the frustration and angst that comes along with being disappointed at not having those things because really that's what you expect.
Right. And the reason I said that is I mean, I don't want to knock on it because I do enjoy there's some good teachings in it, but in The Secret, when you watch that video, the people are like, "Well, I attract it," and they're talking about lots of money
Or
and it's all these material things that they're talking about, and and it to me it goes back to some of those name it claim it style churches that I was drug around into as a kid. Well, if you want a brand new Cadillac, just name it and claim it in the name of God, and you'll get it. If you want a big mansion, just name it and claim it.
and what were they really claiming?
A bunch of ties.
Yeah, well, most people, honestly, they claim whatever they're used to.
Right.
They claim whatever they're conditioned to, whatever they're habituated to. Most people claim whatever their habits are because that's what they expect.
So
Um,
if they're set up for disappointment and not receiving and I mean and it goes back to the biggest part of the law of attraction to me goes back to the very first law that we was talking about with the law of thinking. And if you can't change your mindset and the way you think, the law of attraction isn't going to play out for you. If if
the
if you're thinking of I need wealth, I need monetary means to get me out of this situation I'm in and to live a better life, but you're stuck in a poverty mindset, you're not going to get out of that.
and people will say, "See, I proved the law of attraction doesn't work. I I believe I have money right now. See, it's not here. Just what I thought."
Right. Right.
Or just what you thought. And listen, I don't care what you believe for. I think there's a lot of religious people who do have that, the idea of money and materialism and commercialism and filthy lucre and and say, oh, money is the root of all evil. Well, no, I believe the scripture you're trying to misquote is the love of money
Right.
is the root of all evil. Money is just the commerce that it's what we use for exchange. Yeah, the barter system would be great. Let's go back to that. Find somebody else who'll do that, and you can barter with them. Everybody else expects cash. Um, everybody else expects that currency.
Right.
So um, I don't have a problem with helping people figure out what material things they want. If they look at their scriptures, I don't care what religion they claim, whatever scriptures they're looking at, there's going to be a lot of information in there telling them that whatever God they pray to and worship wants them to have good things.
Right.
God wants them to eat. God
Right.
wants them to have a good, healthy family life. God wants them to have
Have a
optimal living situations.
right, a roof over your head, and stuff. And,
You know,
and
all those material things.
right, and everything that I've ever seen talking in scriptures talks about living in abundance, living in not necessarily a state of I guess wealth would be a way to put it, living in a state of wealth, but not like, Scrooge McDuck kind of rich.
Not lording it over other people.
Right.
There's all kinds of information in all different scriptures that says don't think that you're better than other people, especially just because you have uh,
Right.
more than other people.
Right.
If you have more than other people, you should be appreciating that.
Right.
Uh,
To me, it goes back to the saying that if you have that extra wealth, instead of building fences, build a bigger table.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you know, Proverbs, Old Testament, earliest, in the Abrahamic religions, it says if you have a big farm, don't pick your farm clean. Leave the gleanings on the vine for people who can't afford to buy stuff.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty clear.
Right, and that's
And
and that's just straight up going back to that whole concept of community and taking care of the people that's in your community and around you as well.
it's a materialistic person like Cain who says, "Am I my brother's keeper?"
Right, right,
Yeah, apparently
and
God doesn't care too much about that way of thinking.
right,
But at the same time, the New Testament thinking is also that he who has much, more will be given. To he who has little, even that will be taken away. And that sounds like it sounds like a right bastard there. It sounds like a capricious
right,
and small God. But the thing is, it's by your words that you'll be justified, and by your words you'll be condemned. Your thinking. So if you believe that you have much, then God's always a yes man. God just says, okay, I see you enjoy, appreciating things. Well, here, let me give you more things to appreciate. And at the same token, you can argue about external circumstances and what other people do, but if you say, oh, woe is me, I can't ever get ahead, everything is always, in my way, and God says, well, here, I see you're focused on things being in your way. Here, let me put more things in
right,
your way. You know how you can prove this to yourself, or at least demonstrate? I don't think you can prove anything really except geometry. Because geometry is the only thing where proofs are really things. But you can demonstrate this to yourself by changing your mind. And that's the only way it's going to happen.
right,
You can't maintain an opinion set and see the results of a different set of opinions and maintain the previous opinion at the same time. And you won't be able to see it. You won't be able to recognize it outside of yourself. You'll see people describe it. You'll see people describe all kinds of things outside of yourself. So here you are looking around. Well, which of these opinions is what I'm going to embody? Everybody wants to call themselves a realist. Well, I call it like I see it. No, you don't. You repeat the same habits that you've been repeating, whichever ones you learn from whoever you thought you could trust the most. Unfortunately, people also learn a lot of self limiting habits from people that they don't respect or trust at all.
Oh yeah, and that's, I think, is probably one of the biggest things that gets us is we learn all about self limitations. And it's funny because I just had a discussion with someone not too long ago about finances and stuff, and I struggle with finances and stuff. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm on disability. That's my income. It is not much, but I get by. I get what I need. I survive. But I would like to get to the point to where I have more things coming in so I can do more. So I can upgrade the quality of the stream in this podcast. I can do more trainings, go and do trainings that will bring in more knowledge and stuff to me that I can bring to the show and I can bring to the work that I'm doing and stuff. You know, it I was joking earlier about the car and the yacht and the $1 million or the lottery numbers and stuff. Those are things that, honestly, if I had those, I would sell those off and then just be like, all right, I'm going to take that money to do other things that's more important.
Not everybody wants a yacht.
What? I live in Ohio. What am I going to do with a yacht? I'm gonna go put it on the lake down in the middle of the woods.
Put it on the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, but one of the things that I realized when I was having this conversation was the way I was taught about finances and money and stuff came from the people around me. And when I ended up, like, I was doing good financially and stuff before I became disabled and went on disability. I went on disability in my mid-20s. Before that, the jobs I had, I was making stupid kinds of money. I was spending it on all kinds of idiotic things. And it came to a point that I realized that when I went on disability, I was told, oh, you're going to be poor, you're going to have to penny pinch, you're barely going to get by, you're barely going to survive. These are things I was told from people around me. And so that became my reality because I believed that. I started focusing in on, okay, well, I'll never be able to own a house. I'll never have a brand new car. I'll never be able to go on big trips. I'll never be able to do all these things that I wanted to do because money.
And you know what the law of attraction says? If you say so.
Right. So what I was doing was I was attracting that poverty because that was my mindset. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was putting out there. That was the energy that I was projecting. And honestly, it was just recently that I stopped and I went, you know what? I let everyone else set limitations on me that and I hadn't even realized it until I really sat down and got like really serious with myself one night. And it was just one of those moments of, I didn't realize the way that people talked to me and the way that I accepted what they said. Because to me, it seemed like they were talking in the form of giving me advice and saying, hey, now that you're on disability, you're going to have to deal with this, this, and this.
It sounds reasonable.
Right. It does sound reasonable, but the thing is, I allowed that to be my limitation. And I allowed that to stop me from working on doing things that could bring that abundance into me. And like, I'm not talking that I want to be super rich. I don't need to be, walking around the house in diamond studded, house slippers or whatever.
Well, and I understand that, and I understand why you say it, but at the same time, I'll also say, you know what the law of attraction says to that? If you say so.
It will. Right. Right. And the thing is, it's one of those things that I've realized with the way that I have been thinking, I have, attracted that mentality into me. That what I was thinking and what I was putting out there of, I would say, oh, I really wish I had more money. I really wish I had, just a few $100s more each month that would allow me to do more, allow me to, buy those couple of books that I really, really want to read and study in on, and not have to stress about, okay, to take it in a biblical terms, am I going to have to steal from Peter to pay Paul? Where am I dipping into this money and shifting it over to be able to do something? And, to get to that point, which honestly, I can realistically do easy, you know, with things like this podcast and stuff. I mean, that can happen, and like, well, right now, I just look over and I just got a subscriber. Someone just subscribed to me on Twitch, and thank you for that, Despauls. A very good friend of mine, a very good fellow streamer. But with what I can do with the show and everything else, and I'm not doing this show for money. I want to say that first and foremost. I'm doing this to get information out there and share information. And that's always been my whole focus with the Breaking Reality show. It was never to come up with some catchy podcast and let's go make a bunch of money.
Well, I hope it's successful for you anyway.
You know what? I hope it's successful too. And the truth be told, it's already successful on the level that I intended it for.
But if I may, I know what your listeners are thinking right now.
What's that?
It's magic. Okay, everybody who's listening to Josh speak right now, I'm going to tell you what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh yes, Josh changed his situation because he worked for it. He worked hard for it. It doesn't matter if you're not able to, be employed like you were before. Even on disability, you can work hard and achieve great things because of the work you put in. Okay, am I right?
Hell yeah.
Right? Well, let me throw this out at you. Before you move a muscle, what must happen first?
You got to think about it.
You have to think about it. You have to make a choice. You have to make a decision. And before your physical body gets up and does anything, the attitude that you cultivate, your subconscious direction that you're facing, that will determine what actually happens regardless of how. Listen, if hard work was what made people wealthy, then every woman in Africa would be a millionaire.
Oh, absolutely.
Work does not equal wealth, or it doesn't even equal getting by. There's a lot of people who work 3 or 4 jobs and can barely pay their bills.
Absolutely. I know some hardworking farmers in this community. I live in a farm community that are just barely getting by to keep the farm running.
And then you know what people will say? Oh, yeah, well, don't work hard, work smart. Okay, well, how does that work? If I'm working smart, I'm making good decisions. Right? Again, it all goes back to thinking. I remember being, what, 6, 7, 8 years old in the first, second, third grade, and teachers saying you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. Well, okay, great. How do you put your mind to it?
Right. It starts with thinking.
And, and no one tells you. No one tells you. You know what? Because they don't know.
Well,
They don't know how to do it.
and the way our education system limits, like, honestly, some of the things that we have talked about on this podcast should be things that are taught in our schools. It's funny, some of the things that we are taught in school.
Bad habits.
Right. So some of the things we're taught in school versus some of the things that once you get out there on the world and you're just like, man, I had to learn this lesson the really, really hard way. And they could have taught this to me in 6th grade and I would have understood it by the time I graduated high school.
I spent a lot of time in probably around the fourth grade diagramming sentences, and at that time when I was 9 years old, I would have told you, man, diagramming sentences must be a really important part of being a grown up.
Oh, you know what? I remember the speed math quizzes and having to answer 50 multiplication and division questions in under a minute. And I thought that's what life was going to be like. When you got a job, you have a minute to answer this many math questions.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And some jobs kind of are that way, but not not to the level like what we went through.
I love language. I'm really good with words and letters. But
you good with words?
But I did. I spent a lot of time diagramming sentences in grade school, and there hasn't been a real time that's come up. But what has come up is paying bills and
Right.
Being hungry and wanting to eat. And, I'll remind people where I'll remind people where I came from. When I was I was a kid before I moved off and went to college and everything. Um, I didn't grow up with air conditioning and cable TV and running water and things like that. I grew up in the sticks, and we had a bathtub. It was full of old milk jugs with water. That's what plus the toilet with rain barrels and
Right.
things like so I know what it's like to not have stuff. And for the longest time I dreaded bills. When I was first married and when I was in my 20s and everything, going to the mailbox and just I dreaded it. And I realized that now that dread was the thing that was making things difficult. Because what I could have been doing was saying, "Oh, great, the electric bill's in. I really love air conditioning."
Right.
Have you seen? I'm a ginger. Okay, Gover is my friend. I love not dying of salmonella poisoning because I have a refrigerator and
Right.
clean water, and I love and appreciate all of those things.
Being able to be warm and have heat during the winter and stuff like that.
I appreciate the phone bill. But I didn't do that when I was younger, and that's why everything was hard. Because no one taught me how to appreciate things. People kind of offhandedly told me that I ought to, but they didn't. It wasn't surrounded by a lot of good models of appreciation and gratitude. So even when I would hear it, didn't see a lot of good examples. of it. So it's really hard to model what's not there.
Oh, absolutely. It's like just recently, well, it was back in the beginning of February. I had to get the water heater replaced in this place, and I just paid off the everything that it took to get it replaced and stuff just the other day. And it was one of those things. I was like, man, I'm glad to get that paid off and taken care of. You know, and yeah, it was, it cost me $600 with labor and parts and everything. And but that's a brand new water heater in my place. I don't have to worry about that water heater going bad for a while. It's got a warranty with it. It gives me nice hot water.
If we call it religion, if we call it spirituality, if we call it metaphysics, if we call it life skills, whatever you want to call it, your connection, your relationship with whatever higher power, if you believe in science, whatever, however you think life works, it's got to be practical, right? Man's
Yeah,
got to eat.
yeah.
People have to
I don't necessarily like taking cold showers.
balance, or they'll freeze to death, or die of exposure, or heat stroke. We're talking about life and death, not just optimum conditions of wealth and happiness, but just we're talking about basic survival, as well as eventually moving into just a state of living that you actually look forward to.
Right, and to me, that's what I would call the point of abundance, where you're living comfortably, where you're not stressing on where's the money coming to pay the bills next month. If the car breaks down, what am I going to do? If you got kids or animals or something, what if someone has to go to the hospital, one of the kids gets sick, you got to take your dog to the vet or something along those lines. You're stressed out over, oh man, where's the money going to come to cover this? you
Now,
know
if you enjoy that stress, if that's the way you want to live your life, trust me, no one will ever take that away from you.
Yeah,
We're not
you can have all of it you want.
us talking about being able to live a life without that stress, that stress hanging over your head. Just us talking about it is not going to take that away from you.
No,
You are welcome to it.
no.
But on the other hand, if you say, "Oh no, my stress is out of my hands," all my stress is because of all these external conditions, and yet I used to believe that. I used to believe that firmly. I spent a couple of decades as a pretty militant atheist, and it wasn't, believe me, being exposed to some metaphysical ideas did not make me feel better at first. I'm not talking about some kind of feel good religion.
Right.
If you're just being a boy or girl, while you're alive on earth, and you get to go to heaven after you die. No, I'm talking about changing your mind. Talking about changing your mind and changing your experience of life.
Right.
So I think if we've got people engaged with the idea now, and we're talking about some real life examples. Let's talk about some kind of nuts and bolts
All right, let's get down into it.
of these metaphysical principles, because we were talking about some kind of concrete life examples of stuff. Let's talk about some abstract ideas. We have to put on our thinking caps and engage the old noodle a little bit more.
I like abstract ideas.
Let's talk about the difference between getting and receiving. And again, we're making up definitions because they're useful to define this way. These are not just strictly what the words mean.
They allow our analytical mind to grasp onto a concept and work through it.
Yes. So the way we're going to define getting is in the sense that I want stuff, I think I need stuff, and I'm looking around trying to get love and attention, affection, food, comfort. I'm trying to get stuff, and why? Why am I trying to get stuff? I'm trying to get stuff because I believe I don't have it.
Right.
That's the only reason that I would try to get stuff, is because I believe that I don't have it.
Because if you already
Now,
have
there's
it, you're not going to try to go out and get it.
exactly. And if you believe that you already have it, you don't have to try to go out and get it.
Right.
Not only are you going to try to get stuff, you're going to appreciate and be grateful that you do have things. Now, of course, I know what people are thinking. That's not the way the world works. I've tried that before. Really? Have you? Have you tried that? I'm not trying to be snarky here. I'm saying be honest with yourself. Who among you has spent your lifetime just practicing gratitude and appreciation to the exclusion of frustration? I understand. Yeah, life throws stuff at you that you don't look forward to, and yeah, you're gonna feel ups and downs. I'm not saying be a you know. I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing where
Right.
you're looking at somebody who's having a hard time and say, "Oh, just look on the bright side." No, I'm not talking about telling other people how to think about things. This is for me.
Right.
This is for me. Other people don't need to change. If I can be there to serve them, if I can be there to help them, be of any kind of useful assistance, then I will. That's great. If you can do that, if you can be useful and helpful to someone, that's great. But their thinking doesn't need to change. My thinking needs to change. So I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing where I'm trying to convince someone, oh, your problems aren't really problems. You should always look on the bright side and be grateful for everything. Now, if somebody asks me to explain how life works, eventually we're going to get to that, but that's not our opening line.
Right. And it's one of those things that, like, honestly, Monday I had some appointments, and one of them didn't go the way that I was expecting it to go, and I walked out of there frustrated. I had been doing everything that it was a doctor's appointment. I had went through and done everything this doctor had asked me to, and I was expecting them to start a different treatment, which I had finally decided, hey, I'm willing to do this to try to treat this problem that's going on, treat some of these medical issues. And I went in there and I said, all right, let's do this. And they said, oh, well, let's wait another month. And I came out of that appointment going, what is the purpose? What is the reason? Why wait another month? Why take more time when we've already had a couple months of discussing this exact action, and then I'm ready to take this action, and now it says, oh, well, we're going to wait. Let's come back in another month. And I walked out. I'll admit, I walked out of there frustrated. I felt like I was just banging my head up against the wall, trying to get a result, trying to get something to happen.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you because we've known each other for a while.
Oh yeah, we have.
And so I'm going to submit to you that the reason that you were in a frustrating situation was because you were prepared to be frustrated.
Yes and no. I mean, there was a big part of me that was ready to take this leap, and it's
Say that again. Stop. Run that back. Rewind.
There was a big part of me that was ready to take this leap, and it's a leap that I've really struggled on taking.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. And honestly, I don't mean to piss people off when I say this, but when you say a big part of me, really what you're saying is not all of me.
Right. And I knew that was what you was after. I knew that was the point of it that you was after is the way I ordered that. And it's true. Because there's part of me that has some apprehension about this form of treatment. And it's involving taking a medication that I'm not 100% on board with. But also at this point in time, another part of me feels that this might be what I need to do. And so I had, just kind of broken downly said, all right, let's do this. I'm willing to try this. Let's take this medication that I'm not necessarily thrilled to take.
So, in other words, anytime you can say, oh, well, yes and no, really what you're saying is, I haven't completely committed to anything.
Right. Yeah, because you're standing in the middle. It's really wishy-washy. And,
Hey, be hot or be cold. Be a hero, be a villain, be something. Choose and
right.
on the left or the right. Be hot or be cold. Don't be lukewarm. And we're not talking about the middle path. We're not talking about balance.
Right.
Because you can be completely committed to balance.
Right.
You can be hot or cold and be balanced. When we talk about being lukewarm, we're not. That's not the middle path.
Right.
Being lukewarm in the face of choosing hot or cold is literally that. It's indecision.
It's that wishy-washy.
And that is you should expect to receive the results of that. And this is what we're talking about, the difference between getting and receiving. If I'm trying to get something, it's because I'm acknowledging I don't have it and I want it, and I'm thinking about it. And receiving is that I believe that I'm in the state of my preference.
Right.
Or I believe that I'm in the state of my hell. And that's what I'm receiving.
Right.
I'm in the state. I'm in a state of frustration and disappointment.
Right. And it was funny because I had another doctor's appointment after that, and the second doctor was telling me, he said, I understand your frustrations, but also just don't stop doing what you're doing just because you're frustrated. And it was funny because looking back at that conversation that I had with that doctor, he was telling me, don't change your mind on this. This is something that you need to do. Commit to it, dedicate to it, be willing to go through with it. And, yes, you may have to jump through some hoops because that's the way the medical industry is created today because of the insurance companies and stuff. So you got to jump through a bunch of hoops before you can get through to getting what you're really after.
And that sounds like a higher level thinking.
And that was the way that he came to me and talked to me about this. And I saw that. I understood where he was coming from, but in that moment I was still frustrated.
Now, repeat those words. Now, and I understand you were frustrated at the time. But you repeat those words, and there's a different. You don't have that frustrated, anger with you when you repeat those words. Did those words, in retrospect, bring you any peace or comfort?
Yeah, yes, they did, and it made me realize that. All right, yes, this is the way this industry works, and where I went into this thinking, all right, I'm going to get this treatment starting today. We're going to start this. I wasn't going to receive it. I was going to get it. So let's use the terminology that we're using. Right. I didn't have it. I felt I needed it. I was ready to get it. And then when I didn't get it, I got frustrated because I was at the point to where I felt It was time for it.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, after talking with the second doctor and having the discussion, which none of this was deals with what I was even going and talking to that doctor about. He was just having this kind of post-treatment conversation with me. We had dealt with everything in the appointment that we needed to, and then he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you before you leave." And he's an older gentleman and a really, really well-respected doctor and very excellent in his field. But he wasn't just going to let it go at that. He said, "Hey, I realize you've got this treatment going on for this condition, and you've got this condition that needs to be getting taken care of. If you don't change things, it's only going to get worse for you. But if you make the commitment to changing, if you set your mind to changing," he said, it can get better, and it won't be just for this one issue. It will be complete for overall health.
And I submit to you that was a divine pep talk.
It really was.
Out of the mouth of a doctor, but that was the voice of God.
Oh, it very was, because it was the exact words I needed. And like I said, even 15, 20 minutes after I had left his appointment, after I had left his office, I was still frustrated about the first appointment because it didn't go the way I wanted it to. But that second appointment,
what you wanted, but what you received was really what you needed to hear.
Right. Because it put me in a place where I realized that in order to get this, first I got to change my thinking. I got to change the way that I'm looking at this. And to be prepared for this treatment, it's one of those things, like you said, I said, I was kind of there, kind of not, it was one of those things that I was kind of reluctantly willing to do. And so in that reluctance, that could have ultimately led to failure of that treatment if I had started it at that point in time.
Very possibly.
It could have been successful, but in that reluctance, my mindset was not set on success.
And here's the thing: if you are indecisive, that is not, just because you're indecisive is not a guarantee of failure. Indecision means that that you don't know what to expect. Some things can work and other things not. It's really just, it feels more like a coin toss. But being decisive and being self-assured will produce results that,
because when you do that, you're stacking your deck. You're setting your deck in your favor, that the cards that you're going to pull, the cards that you're going to be dealt, are going to be the ones you need when you need them.
So more nuts and bolts, because people are going to say, well, not every situation is this, because what you described, some things didn't, you didn't get what you were looking for, but you did receive something important, and not every situation is as nicely played out and symmetrical as that. Not every situation can be described in that half-hour sitcom resolution where everything works out in 28 minutes. Plus commercials. Not everything is symmetrical, is that story that you just told. Some people are like, no, I don't receive, that divine guide. I've never heard anybody talk, anything like that. I don't get comfort and things like that. I don't get, divine pep talk. Well, guys, be quiet, be still for a moment. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're getting it right now.
Absolutely.
So we talked about the difference between getting and receiving, and there's a you can call it a balance. You can call it the yin and the yang of there is an active, again, I'm assuming that you're looking for change, right? Whoever's listening or whoever's watching this podcast, I'm assuming that you're looking for change. So if you want to move from one state into another, there's really two things that are going on. And one is an active part, and the other is a passive part. The active part is desire. And we can split hairs about the way we use words. I'll do the same thing with want and desire.
Right.
Everybody wants stuff. Everybody has goals. We have long-term goals, short-term goals, important goals, and trivial goals. We all want stuff. We go to the grocery store because we want what's on our grocery list. Then we also kind of want that stuff that's in the checkout
Right.
aisle.
Right.
Those
impulse buys.
Impulse buys. Do we need any of that stuff? I don't know. Sometimes there's kind of a reason why some of those things are put like the headphone earbuds and stuff like that. If that's the type of thing that you need, and yours are all tore up and you forgot, there it is. Reminding you last minute at the checkout.
Right.
I'm not saying that those things are completely unimportant. I'm just saying that they're placed there for a reason.
But then there's the Snickers bar, which you don't necessarily need.
All the candy bars, everything. And so we want stuff. Everybody wants stuff. We want to be comforted.
Right.
We want to enjoy stuff like candy bars. But then there's things that we have a desire for, like the way we want to live our life. Things that we really want to get out of life. We have, and it's an active desire in the sense of, I want to be a surgeon, or I want to be a truck driver, or I want to win the Nobel Prize because I have this really important science contribution that I want to give society. I want to be an artist. I want to be an athlete. We have a desire. And the thing is, if we don't move in the direction of fulfilling that desire, we're probably going to be dissatisfied. If we don't move in that direction, it's probably going to hurt. But that's the active component of this mental attitude that we're taking on. The passive component of it is expectation. You use the word, I didn't expect it to turn out this way, and I'm here to tell you, yeah, you did. And most people are either unwilling or they don't know how to really analyze themselves about what they desire. What do you want? What do you want? I ask people, as gently as possible when people come to me asking questions, and I ask them, well, what do you want? And I just get this wide-eyed, like deer in headlights stare, like, I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that before. Everybody's always told me what I ought to be doing. Nobody's ever asked me what I wanted.
Right. Everybody's told me this. Everybody's told me that. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about the way I had limited myself with my mindset, because
I'll tell you what you ought to want.
Right. I was told this is what I should expect. I should expect this. I should expect life to be this way. I should expect things because I went on disability. I should expect to live life in poverty is basically what I was told.
And what happened when you did?
Oh, it became my reality.
Yeah.
It truly became my reality because I thought, oh, well, this is how it's going to be. This is how it's going, it, and so when you say, all right, well, it's just how it is, this is how it is, but it's not, like you said, I have, I have the ability to live in abundance, and I know that. And to me, that is living where I'm not stressed about where money to pay my bills is going to come from, or if I want to take a friend out to eat, I don't have to worry about, is that going to cause me to be financially burdened later in the week or in the
So
month.
what started to happen when you decided to change your mind?
I started getting things put into order to get me to that place where I am in abundance. And one of those things like you was talking about earlier, I have the ability to do that with my streaming, not just through the show, but my other streaming and stuff I do with the video games and stuff like that, and my other streaming aspects. That is a source that I can use to get me to a place where I am not stressing over the finances like I have been in the past.
Yeah. And so when you demonstrate it to yourself, that's when you realize this isn't wishful thinking.
Right.
It's not magical thinking.
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on with that you had mentioned earlier was you said, oh, well, it wasn't the law of attraction in place that was bringing this abundance to him. It was he went out and done hard work. He put in the money, he put in the effort, he put in the time. Well, I see that differently. This is my means of taking care of that because I said I need something that I can do that is within the restrictions that I deal with my disability and my issues and my health issues, that I can do, that I can work, and I can bring in extra income to supplement what I've already got. And this came into reality.
Do you realize how prevalent the fear of public speaking is?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's funny, and it's funny because I was trained in public speaking through high school. I was one of the few people in our school who was taken and trained specifically for public speaking.
And so someone could look at at that that business plan or that life model and say, oh, you're a professional talker. Yeah. So what's the big deal? Many people will rate the fear of public speaking as being higher than the fear of bodily death.
Oh yeah. I know. So there's so many of my friends and stuff that, and you
would rather die than talk in public.
Right, and you even know some of these folks. I've asked them, hey, be on my show, come on my show and talk with us, come on and do the show, and they're just like, no. No, and I'm like, why not? I mean, it's just literally you and me sitting there having no. And it's one of those things that if we really want to look at it, the foundations and the tools for what I'm doing now was laid in the past, and things were put into place.
Oh, imagine that.
Exactly.
Your entire life has been a brilliant setup for what you actually wanted to do anyway.
Right. And the whole time I was busy chasing down something else.
Yeah.
Until I said, hold on a second. I think I might have an idea here.
Wouldn't you just rather sit down in a comfortable chair and talk to people about important stuff?
Absolutely. What do you think I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
I don't know. This chair's not nearly as comfortable as I'd like it to be, but we'll fix that in the future.
Right, right. Yeah, that's coming.
Exactly.
Everything everything is on the way. So here we have these two, going back to the nuts and bolts, um, is here we have desire, but we also need the expectation, and a positive expectation. And I'm not talking about an expectation of positive things. I mean, positive, in terms of the number line, which direction are we facing? Are we adding
Right.
or subtracting something to our experience? And we can have, a positive expectation of really bad stuff. That's how we end up in, stubbing our toe when we wake up in the morning, or having horrific automobile accidents, because we very rarely experience the a 1-to-1 ratio of our fears, the objects of our fears. If someone was to say, oh, what are you afraid of? What are your phobias? Well, I'm afraid of heights. I'm really afraid of spiders. And well, do you encounter many spiders in your daily life? You're probably not. But what does get your goat on a daily basis? Oh man, every day I've got this long commute, and every day I get stuck in traffic, and all these assholes cutting me off and slamming the brakes in front of me. Okay, so what really gets you riled up is what you encounter on a daily basis. You don't have a phobia about traffic. You if you were to list your fears, that's probably not going to come up. But what you were experiencing is your current layers of fear, not the objects of your fear. If you were to sit down and list all the things that you're afraid of, you're probably not going to experience much of those.
Right.
You might, but I guarantee you, however intense your fears are about anything, however intense your worry and your doubt are, you're going to experience something in life that is a direct correlation to that.
Right.
And you might not even see it coming. Oh, I didn't expect that. No, but you expected something. And that was just, the universe likes speed. So that's just what was in your immediate environment. That's what was in your sphere of influence. And so you expected something sucky, and so you had to experience it. And you can say all day long, well, I didn't expect that. No, but you expected to be bent out of shape about something. And the universe has to reflect it back to you. God's a yes man. God always provides. So the things that make this expectation possible. And again, I'm assuming that a person wants to change things,
Right.
right? You want to experience things, you want to get more out of life. What are you interested in? You have to have an interest in something. And unfortunately, what a lot of people have done is, because it's so painful for them to be aware of their desires and to be afraid of not getting them, or just they know that that's not in the cards for them this lifetime.
Well, I think.
And so they shut it down.
Well, I think so
They
many.
turn off their interest.
I think so many people expect failure in whatever they do because it's just kind of the mentality that they're given by people, like
That's cultural.
and well, I can even say from my own parents, a lot of times I've heard these exact words of, well, you shouldn't do that, it's not going to work out, you're going to fail, it's not going to You
And
know,
obviously,
you're wasting money, you're
right?
throwing money away, you know, those things are the things that I've heard. And it's one of those things that, well, it's even like my relationship that I have right now. It's a long distance relationship with someone who I love dearly and truly. They're very dear to me. Our connection is extremely deep. It's an extremely powerful connection. But when I've talked about moving to be closer with him, I get, well, you know, I wouldn't do that. It's not going to work out. Oh, cool. Let me look into your magical ball that you have there that's telling you that this isn't going to work out. I really like to see this, because that's not my expectation. That's someone else's expectation that they're trying to put onto me. And that they're trying to say, well, hey, you know, you got to expect this to fail. You got to expect this to be bad. You have to expect everything, all the worst possible case scenarios. And I think a lot of us will do that ourselves, is we'll go through all the worst possible case scenarios and start to expect those versus the positive outcomes. You know, we've all heard the phrase, you know, hope for the best but prepare for the worst. And when, I mean, yeah, there's some logic to that, but at the same time, when you're focusing on the worst case scenario, the worst possible situation, that's what you're going to manifest. That's what you're going to attract. That's what you're going to pull towards you.
That focus. I think it was Neville Goddard who gave a kind of an example of this, how two different people can hear exactly the same influence and take it completely different ways. So it's not just that the things that people say just automatically affect us. The example he gave is like you're on a cruise ship, you're feeling really seasick. The shrimp's not agreeing with you. You're out on the main deck. You're looking over the rail, and somebody walks up to you and says, you look kind of green. You look like you're about ready to hurl. You might want to go lie down or something. And you're like, oh yeah, I am not feeling well right now. But if you're having the time of your life, and you're just standing out there, maybe you're like me, you're just a little pale.
Right.
I do not tan. I'm
two colors, pale and burnt.
Right. So if somebody walks up to me and says, dude, you're looking a little pale. Are you sure you're feeling all right?
It's like, no, this is my normal state.
I'm just like, yeah, this is my skin tone. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, more time in the sun is not going to change this complexion.
It will, but to a not so desirable state.
So the words that are spoken to you, they don't have to affect you. And when you're used to hearing someone say, I wouldn't do that, that's expensive and it never works, and if you're uncertain about yourself, if you're unsure, then you might hear those words and it'll make you even more uncertain.
Right.
But if you say, thank you, but I'm not open to outside advice right now, the people who say it can't be done need to get out of the way of the people who are busy doing it.
Exactly. It's funny because it's like just, I was telling you earlier today, I just got my lighting in because I'm changing the stream setup, and I just got my lighting in today. Now, the lighting, which are two really nice big LED lights that will attach to my desk up front, and they'll light this way and everything. A little pricey. They cost me $200 for the two lights. Honestly, from the other options I had, I could have paid $200 for one light of similar quality. I found something that works for me, and it's going to work for allowing me to take this to a next level, taking it to a better level. And, I was told, oh, well, don't do that. Don't spend that money. How's that going to help you out? And I said, well, first off, you don't know anything about streaming. You don't know what I'm doing. You're not involved in any of the stuff that I do with this, yet you're wanting to give me opinions on what I should and shouldn't do
Okay,
to
this
better
thing
this.
that I want to do. Have you been doing it successfully for a long time? Because if you have, then I'll listen to your advice.
Right.
Otherwise, why are you talking?
Right. It was one of those things that, yeah, I could have taken that $200 and used it for something else. But to me, it was an investment put into something that I'm working on, that I'm building, that I'm wanting to take to the next levels. And I was willing, and I am willing to make that investment into this project that I am doing that is breaking reality. And to me, it was a hands down no brainer. The next step is to get this area set up that I'm working on to, I'll have a nice backdrop behind me. It's not just going to be my living room. You're not going to see the entranceway with the ladder and the dog leash and my jacket and everything. And, occasionally you'll see Tanner running around back here doing goofy stuff. I mean, that's fun and all, I like seeing him do all the craziness. But it will take it to another level where it's more professional.
And
And
you're professional. And most people who have been successful in anything, they'll tell you have to invest money in order to earn money.
right. And
And you're investing in yourself.
right. And what, at the end of the day, if I never make that $200 back at the end of the day, to me, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because what I'm doing with this show, and I said it earlier, it's already hit home where my first expectations were for it. I've had people come to me and say, hey, I'm glad you're doing this show. Some of the information I got on there really hit home for me, and it really got to the place where I needed it. I got what I needed. I learned something. It changed my perspective, and that was the whole point of me even starting Breaking Reality, was to help change people's perspectives of the way they look at the world around them. That's the tagline for the show. And in doing that, I met one of my biggest goals with the show already. Now, if this show continues on and ends up being something that helps me out financially, so be it. That's awesome. That's even better. That's taking it above my expectations. And bringing those kind of things in is just, it's like the icing on the cake.
Well, with that being said, bring it back around to expectation. Okay, the first thing that gets expectation, gets the ball rolling, I said, was interest. What are you interested in? Actually, going off Raymond Hollowell's description of this, I can describe this in a lot of other ways, but we're flashing Raymond Hollowell's
Right.
book. It's a place to start. And so what Hollowell is that interest in something isn't enough. You have to give it your full attention. Focus is another way of describing kind of the same thing. What are you focused on? What are you giving your attention? Mental attention, emotional attention. What do you believe? Are you, to put it in the realm of finances, what are you focused on? Is what gets your attention? Is it your bills? Is debt what gets your attention? Or is the possibilities? Is it your excitement? your what you look forward to. I don't know how I'm going to pay the bills next week, but I am so grateful that the lights are on right now.
Absolutely.
What do you give your attention?
I mean, to me, it's one of those things of, like I said, I'm at the point where I can pay my bills. My bills are paid; they're taken care of. The electric's on. I even have enough extra to have, some little extra things here and there. I bought a couple of books this month. They're getting delivered later this week. Like I said, I took some of the money that I got recently and invested into the stream. I was able to pay off some stuff around the house, and those things feel good. Like getting being able to go, hey, my water heater broke down. I got my water heater replaced. Oh, hey, I got it paid off. That feels good.
Yeah.
You know, and it was funny because someone's like, man, don't you feel crappy about having to pay $600 for that water heater and getting it replaced and all the parts and labor? And I'm like, no, I feel good that I have the $600 that I can pay it off. I got the money. I've got it paid off. I'm not stressing about where I'm going to come up with that money. It's taken care of. It's dealt with. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have that debt hanging over top of me. It's cleared. And I've got a new water heater.
Whenever I have big expenses, I mentally, and this is all going on within. This is all going on inside the mind. Is I love it. I love paying off bills, big bills, small bills. That I don't care. I don't have any bills where I'm paying off something that I didn't want.
Right.
I think, and maybe if I thought really, really hard about it, maybe I could come up with something in the past. But by and large, everything that I have to circulate money on, it's stuff that I wanted.
Right. Right. And
so I'm gonna have that gratitude. I'm gonna have that appreciation for it, and that is what is going to get my attention. But I enjoy appreciating things.
right. To put it into that perspective, I am grateful that I was able to pay off that water heater. And at the same time, I'm grateful I've got a new water heater. I'm not going to have to worry about that water heater breaking down or anything anytime soon. It's brand new. It's not the old one that was here that might have been in this building for 30 years or so. And, one of those things of having to sit there and worry going, oh man, this thing's really old. When's it going to crap out on me? When's it going to go bad? And I actually told someone, I said, my house has a roof that was put on fairly recent, so it's got a fairly new roof. It's got a newer furnace. It's got a newer heat pump. Just replaced the water heater. And so, those big major expenses that goes on with a home are all pretty much taken care of. There's some kitchen appliances and stuff that I would like to get newer stuff of, but that's in the process. That's being worked on. But as far as like those really big ticket money items, they're all pretty much been taken care of just recently. So those aren't things that's sitting over top of my head worrying me. I'm not sitting there worrying about when is this going to go bad. This winter, I wasn't worried about my furnace of, oh man, is my furnace going to go out? Am I going to have to come up with money to replace my furnace?
Now, you mentioned the movie, The Secret, and movie, book, whatever. You mentioned that at the top of the hour, and very often you'll hear people describe things as a mental magnet, and they also were pointing out a lot of very specific things. You're pointing out a lot of household appliances and the big ticket items and stuff. But you also said that overwhelmingly, you have the feeling that you're going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Which is really where your mental magnet is focused.
Right. And that, honestly, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, and looking back, even when I went through really rough times, I had a period of my time after my divorce where I ended up homeless for a little bit, and that was stressful, and there was a lot of issues with that. But also at the same point in time, I never once worried that I wasn't going to be okay. And during that whole time, I knew everything was going to work out. Everything was going to be okay. And I never, I had my dog with me at that time. Me and him never once went without, food and water. We was taken care of. I had a car at the time. I slept in my car if I couldn't find some place else to be. We had a place to be safe. And some people might be sitting there going, "Oh man, you had to sleep in your car? That was rough. That must have been horrible." Well, it was an experience.
Yeah.
I've been on camping trips where I've lived rougher than that.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Is there any one of us who wouldn't want to know that we're safe?
Right. No, I mean, we all want to know that we're safe. And the thing is, even during that time, my mentality wasn't, "Oh God, am I going to be safe? Oh, is this going to be okay? Am I going to have money for food tomorrow? Am I going to have this?" Now, granted, did I have to hustle and get creative with some things and, bust my ass going different places to make it happen and make it work? Absolutely. But those resources came to me. Those resources were put in front of me. Those resources.
Did you have to go out and get them, or were you really in a mental place where you were willing to receive them?
It was really a place where I was willing to receive them. And, I had to do some work. I had to do the legwork. Huh?
You got to show up.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people get with the law of attraction. They think, well, I thought it. I said this is what I want, and it hasn't shown up. Okay, well, like I said, I would love to have an extra $400 to $500 a month coming in my income. But if I don't do anything other than sit here in my living room with that little goofball behind me, and say, I would like to have this money. I would really like to receive this money. I really wish I had this. It would make things so much easier. But then I do nothing to put that into action, except for sit on my couch and think it, or sit in front of my computer and think it. That's never going to come to pass.
I think you're thinking of the wrong number. I think you should set your sights a little more reasonable. I think it's more reasonable that you receive an extra 4,000 or 5,000.
I knew you was going to do that.
That's more reasonable to me.
And I tell you what, that number is not out of. That number is honestly not out of reach. And
the truth is, there isn't any number that's not out of reach.
Right.
Like you said earlier, we set limitations on ourselves.
Right.
And we do that by what we think.
Come here.
The religious way of saying that is what we believe. That's the religious or spiritual way of saying. And so I'll ask you. I'll ask anyone, what do you believe? The truth is, you're carrying around all these subconscious beliefs, and you don't know what they are.
Right.
Until you're confronted with a situation, somebody asks you, "Hey, what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about your relationship to this situation? What do you believe you're capable of?" And then you have to really think about it. Say, well, gee, no one's ever asked me that question, but right now I believe I'm a worthless piece of crap, and that other guy deserves that promotion more than I do, and that guy's been on the job longer than me, and I just, I believe I haven't earned it.
Right.
Oh, well, it's it's no wonder that you're not experiencing it then.
Right.
And
Hold
those
on a
beliefs.
second. I need to get a drink.
Oh, sure. Cough it up.
It's one of those things that, to me, like with doing the show, I've done other shows in the past. Um, I was a host for Cannabis Times Radio on Blog Talk Radio for a while. Had some absolutely amazing great shows. This is something that, getting into this realm is something that I have found is part of my niche. This is part of what I am able to do. It's a skill set that I've been given. And we was talking, you and me was talking about this not too long ago, and I mentioned, that, I never got into this thinking I was going to be the next Joe Rogan podcast or anything like that. I got into this with a mentality of, hey, I want to do the show. I want to get this information out to people. I want to broadcast this to people. I want to share this knowledge and this wisdom. But also, through doing this, I've realized I can be bigger than what Joe Rogan ever was. Or ever has been.
See you anytime somebody says, oh, I don't want to live in the lap of luxury. I want enough to get by. I want enough to pay my bills. I don't need to be a superstar at this. I want to be good at it. And, and that's wonderful. Good to be humble.
Right. And there is a part of that is
if you're bringing it up, that's where your desire really lies.
Right. There's a part of this where I sit here and I want to be humble. I don't want to allow the ego to get into the way of things. But also at the same time, I want to be to the point to where Joe's calling me going, dude, I want to be a guest on your show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be on your show, And it's funny because I was looking at a notebook that I had when I first started Breaking Reality back on Blog Talk Radio. I started writing down names of people that I wanted as guests so I could contact them, say, hey, would you like to be a guest on the podcast? I'm starting to show up. I'm doing this. And so I had this list of people, and I started putting down famous people in there too. Not with the intention that, hey, they're going to be on my very first show. No one's ever heard of me. I don't have a viewership built up at this point in time. They're not going to show up. But I put their name down there because those are people who are going to end up being on the show. And that is that is part of that attraction. I'm drawing these people into being here because I want to have these conversations with them.
And you know what that does? What that does is it creates a mental assumption. Not an arrogant assumption, but a subconscious assumption. Because what the assumption is if that person was on my show, that would have to mean that I'm successful at it.
Yeah, that's that. At that point in time, you can say, I've made it. This has, become something big if this person is here.
So, like Neville Goddard says, always go to the end. Always go to the end of your story where everything has worked out for the best, with no sorrow added, as scriptures say.
Right.
If you're saying, oh well, I had to get this, because I have things now because somebody else doesn't. That's everyone receives what they're in the mental place to receive. We were just born into places that where we inherited other people's ideas. We inherited other people's poverty. We inherited other people's wealth. We inherited other people's ideas that this is what I have to deal with. And I if I don't want it, I have to fight against it.
Right.
Well, how's that working for you?
It just it has you sitting there spinning your wheels in place.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I always, for the longest time, like I said, even just recently, the mindset has started to shift and change for me. That conversation I was talking about, where I had realized the way that I was thinking was because of people's limitations they had put on me, was one I just had a few weeks ago. And it was one of those things that I hadn't really realized the way I was allowing other people's expectations, other people's thoughts, other people's opinions to really shape the way I was thinking. I was like, oh well, my thinking's in a good place. I'm thinking this is going to be successful. I'm not thinking that it's bad, but at the back of the mind, you've got that nagging voice there saying, well, this won't work. You're just spending a bunch of money. You're just blowing a bunch of money, and you're not being smart. You're not being a good steward of your funds. You're not being wise with what you're doing. You could use that for other things, or put that back for a rainy day, type situation. But at the same time, I'm, it's one of those things that I know this can be successful because I've seen it be successful.
You got to circulate money to earn money.
Right. And
You got
so,
to.
and so to me, my whole mentality is, yes, yeah, I spent $200 on lighting that I'm going to be putting up and installing tomorrow. I'm going to actually probably go spend another $40 on some additional lighting for the room tomorrow. And I am not stressing that one bit.
I
To me,
wouldn't.
I'm not, because I know that this is just part of the process of setting things up to be better, to be in the place that I want and I need these things to be, in order to take what I'm doing and be successful with it. And so, I'm like I said, I'm going to be changing the way the setup is done. I'm going to be moving my whole setup to a different room. There's going to be some different things going on with it. And then
Awesome.
this area that I'm in right now, I'm bringing a different table out here, and this is going to be set up as my dedicated study area. And so I'll have a nice big table out here that's probably going to be filled with all kinds of books and notebooks and binders and, folders, and you know how that goes.
Yeah, this is my office here. So, just a minute ago, you were talking about other people's words and their influence on you, and for the listeners right now, um, this is pay attention to this. I'm going to say something. Other people's words are nothing more than a reflection of your current layers of fear. If people's words are overwhelmingly sincere and positive and encouraging, that probably means that your attitude is particularly courageous. That you have somehow managed a lot of your worry and your doubt. If other people's words are overwhelmingly pessimistic, then what that means is that you as an individual are participating in a lot of worry and doubt. And you haven't found a way to find your own courage.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. I think you're spot on with a lot of that, but also at the same time, you know, and going back to the way my family has treated this is, even when I'm full bore all in on this show, on doing this podcast, which I am. This is something I'm dedicating my time, my energy, my efforts to. This is my desire and my goal, and what I want to work on and build as part of everything else that I'm working on. And in doing this, I've got these people over here that are that they have their doubts. They don't think this is going to work. They don't think this is going to be successful. Even while I'm sitting here going, it's going to work. It's going to be successful. It's already been successful to the point that I originally set out for it to be successful. Now it's time for me to take...
Yeah, you're just scaling up right now.
Right. And so now it's time for me to raise my level of expectation to a higher level to continue to push me forward. I already hit the first bar that I wanted to hit. I already hit that first mark that I wanted to get with the show. And doing that, to me, has already made it a success. And so now it's like, okay, well, I hit this level. Let's go here. But honestly, that's even limited. Let's go here.
And so let me just remind you, since you mentioned that, again, like I said, the two different people with two different mindsets, they're not hearing different things from people. They're, the pessimistic attitudes are still going to show up
right
in your story. That does not mean that you are weak and doubtful. How you respond to it is determined by your layers of fear. And so for those for your viewers who are waiting for us to get biblical or something, I'll just remind you, when Yeshua went out to the wilderness to face the devil of his own ego, he didn't go out in the wilderness and Satan just says, "Well, damn, you got this. I'm not even going to bother." No,
right.
We have a story where Satan is tempting Christ. The ego does have its challenges. If you're a holy master, one with the Father, you're still going to hear the temptations of the ego that, life is pain. Why don't you just make it immediately, make everything pleasant?
Right.
Well, no, I've got work to do. I'm going about my Father's business. And, so yeah, even Christ was confronted with his own doubts. That's really what the devil is your own human ego expressing those doubts and fears. But remember, people who have spent a lot of time thinking about this have said, okay, the devil's a liar.
Right.
Everything that comes out of that worry and that doubt and it's not good enough. I'm asking for too much. It's a lie. It's an absolute lie. So you can either listen to the worry and doubt, or you can listen to the courage that is waiting for you. And when we're talking about the law of attraction, where people describe it as this mental magnet that you're learning to focus, and some of the law of attraction teachings that I've heard people express are kind of off the mark. I think a lot of people are asking, well, how do I turn this power on? And again, I'm assuming that the viewers of the show today, they haven't studied the other the other shows that where we've talked about this. So I'll catch you up. The universal laws are laws. This is not a faucet that you can turn on and off. You can't suddenly connect to or tap into or turn on the law of attraction. This is a faucet that doesn't shut off.
Right.
You are practicing experience 100% of the time. You're doing it by whatever emotional content you're expressing. However you feel,
Right.
that's what you're attracting. The way we change that is by challenging our beliefs.
Right.
And the problem that people are confronted because they're, I'm not going to change anything until I see proof of it. Well, tough. If that's what you're waiting for, if you're waiting for someone else to demonstrate it, I can only tell you how it works. I can only tell you what I've done with it. I can only tell you how I've changed my life through understanding of spirit. I tell you how to do it, but I will remind you that you can't experience change in your life until you make those changes in your mind, until you change what you believe.
Right.
And you can knock yourself out and just believe in some totally off the wall stuff. Well, I want to live in a world where there's dragons and unicorns, and so I'm going to believe for that. But
Gary Gygax
okay,
created a way to do that. It's called Dungeons and Dragons.
and if that's the world, if that's the reality that you live in, well, probably from the outside world, people are probably going to see you drooling in a corner. But be honest. What world do you want to live in? What reality do you want to live in? Does it feel natural to you? Is it what you want to expect? Is it the object of your heart's desire? Or are you just being goofy with it? Are you being silly with it?
Right.
Are you tempting the Lord by God?
Right. And it's funny the way that you said that. Because in that conversation that I had recently where I was talking with my friend about the way that I've approached finances and abundance and stuff, it's been one of those things that they asked me, they said, well, what's it going to feel to you when they said, what does abundance feel like to you? And
Right.
I said, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what that would feel like. And so I had to stop and focus on that. I told him, I even copied the whole conversation. I copied the conversation down, put it into a text file so I could go back and look and read through it again so I could see what we were saying in this. And honestly, Demian, I might even send it over to you later for you to read through. You might enjoy it. But there was a point in time where I'm like, I really got to just stop and go meditate on this. I gotta spend some time thinking about these things, focusing on these things, because I never stopped to think of what abundance would feel like. There was a point in time where, like I said, where I was working and I had money and I was spending it on stupid stuff all the time. I was just like, yeah, hey, I want to go grab a steak dinner tonight. I'm not going to worry about it. Go get steak dinner. I want to go buy the newest CD that just came out, and I'm probably dating myself by saying I bought CDs. I date myself and say I bought cassettes too. I'm not old enough that I bought 8-tracks, okay?
Oh, I inherited those.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I inherited the 8-tracks and the vinyl collection, and yeah. Those were inherited, but yes, they were there.
Brother.
But it was one of those things that when this person asked me, I hadn't felt what that would feel like for a long time, so I had to stop and think about it and go, man, if I can't if I can't put that into a feeling, if I can't actuate what that would be like, then how am I going to know that I achieved it?
I invite everyone. Ask yourself, what do you believe? What do you want? What do you really want out of life? What do you expect? What do you believe? And if you believe that you should only scratch out the bare and meager existence, why? Why do you believe that? Oh, because it's good to be humble, and I don't want to take anything for anyone. And if there's other people who in the world who have less than I do, and then, well, it's not fair. Well, in the world, it's not fair. But what I'm here to invite people to understand is that the laws of the universe that make existence possible are not just fair, they're mathematically perfect.
Right.
And each person as an individual, it's very difficult for us to do this socially. It's not impossible. I think eventually we will, but it cannot be where it starts.
Right.
Can't start this by trying to change society. You will affect society. You will affect culture, certainly, but you'll have to change yourself first.
Right.
Like like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Because
Right.
trying to argue and convince other people, well, I want you to be happy, and I want you not to be poor, and I want you not to be sick, and
Well,
I want you to be sad and not to be angry. Well,
it
dude, take a look at
it's the whole thing that if I'm to a point where I'm living in abundance and I've got more than what I need, it's like we said earlier, instead of building walls, build a bigger table.
right. I want you to be wealthy enough to pay other people's bills.
Oh, I would absolutely love to do that. I've actually talked about this. One of the things that I do desire with the show is to get it to being so successful that it's bringing in an income that provides for me and allows me to pay for other people. I would love to be able to say, hey, you want to come on my show and be a guest on my show? I'll drop you a few $100s for coming onto my show. You know?
Because my wife and I, we give all kinds of money away, but we do it in complete and total secrecy. You
Right.
know,
I,
these it's not the type of thing that you advertise, because what happens, you realize life is a mirror, you attract what you put out, and when you put out giving, you shouldn't at all be surprised when you start receiving.
Exactly. And I would love to be able to get to the point to where, the people that moderate for me, I can say, hey, you know what? Let me pay you a salary for doing this. You're taking your time, your energy, your effort. You're helping me out. Now it's my time to help you.
Your unpaid internship is finally paid off.
Exactly. Your unpaid internship has come to an end. I'm sorry, you are no longer an intern. You're now an employee.
I'm now an employee. Here's your salary.
Exactly.
Now go file taxes.
Exactly.
You're gonna need an accountant.
Funny enough, I know a couple, so
And those are the types of things, wealth scares people. Having income scares people. People cannot wait to complain about the same things they have heard other people complain about. Yeah, here's my paycheck, but 30% of it goes to the government. You know what? If it didn't, your employer would just pay you less. Do you not know that?
right. Well, and I think that even goes back to, we've talked about it before. People gain an identity of, well, I'm this or I'm that, and so it gives them an identity, and even some people can lock onto the whole identity of I'm poor, and that becomes who they are. Well, I'm poor, I don't have a lot of money, I can't do this, I can't do that, and it gives them, a platform to complain about, not making enough money. Now, granted, I will tell you, I think everyone in this country should be able to earn a living wage, working, a decent amount of hours. I know single parents who are working, 2, 3, 4 jobs to try to just make ends meet. And to me, that is crazy.
Yeah, I think it is an absolute crime that our minimum wage is not a living wage. It
Right.
was never. It is an absolute and total lie. I don't know where this came from. It is an absolute, complete, and total lie that a minimum wage is supposed to be a starting wage. It's for high school kids who are, a little extra game money, or
Right.
college kids. It's just a little extra beer money. It's a complete and total lie. The concept of a minimum wage was created to be a lifestyle supporting
Right.
wage.
This is supposed to be the minimum amount of money you need to make to be able to survive.
And so, our parents and our grandparents, who were, after the economy had recovered from the Great Depression, and after everybody came back from World War II, you could go out and get a job, one person could buy a house, a couple of cars, uh, radio, TV, and save up to send their kids to college.
Right. And that was a wage that supported a family.
And honestly, wages haven't gone up that much.
No, the
But
cost of living has exponentially went up in comparison to the
cost of living has gone up by hundreds of percent.
right.
We're not making a salary that's terribly that much greater than our grandparents were earning, most people's jobs. Now it's the norm that we have to have at least two people, we have to have a team of a couple of people earning a salary.
There was a point. There was a point in our society when what I bring in on my disability check each month would have been considered a very, very high wage. But the cost of living has, like we said, went up exponentially without, the amount that people are getting. And now what I get, I'm actually considered below the poverty level.
Yeah.
And, the same amount of money 20, 30, 40 years ago, maybe even longer ago, but even I think back to when I was a kid, the cost of stuff, it was funny. I'll use a real funny example. I went to Walmart the other day, and when I was a kid, I was real big into GI Joes. I went and I looked at and I used to be able to buy a GI Joe for like $3, like $3.50 for a GI Joe figure. I went the other day and I was just curious. I walked it through I was walking past it anyways. I had to go back to pick some things up in the back of the store, walk past the toy section, and I'm like, I'm just going to look and see what the new GI Joe figures out they have are like. They want almost $10 for one of those figures. And they're not putting, granted, the molding's a little bit better. The paint jobs are a little bit better than what they were back then. But it's not really all that much more plastic that's being put into that thing.
It used to be, and manufacturing is probably much, much more efficient now.
Oh, I guarantee it's much more efficient.
And what prices, back in the late 70s, early 80s was, what, $3.95, $4.95, probably.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, like, you even think about, like, like what you used to pay when you'd go out to eat. Like, say you'd go out to McDonald's. I mean, buying a Big Mac was what, $2, $3? Now they're like $5. You know,
and did that happen because minimum wage went up from $5 to $7? We had to raise prices. No, that had already happened.
right.
The prices that went up hundreds of percent with wages remaining stagnant. So don't give me that crap about, if we have to pay our employees more, then all the prices are going to go up. The prices have already gone up.
Exactly. Like, I remember going and buying a pack of baseball cards for $1 for a pack of baseball cards. You get, 20 cards in a pack and a stick of bubble gum that'd break your teeth if you tried to chew it.
So what I'm encouraging people is don't get bent out of shape about the complaining that everything is too expensive. Learn to change your beliefs about what you're worth and about what you have, not what you will have. This is a really super important point. If you really want to change your life, you're experiencing life in the present moment. You're not experiencing life in the future. You're experiencing it now. So get out of your head any kind of language that says, well, I know things will be better.
You got to change that to things are better.
That I am perfect. I am complete. Creation is now finished. Always has, always will be. I am safe. I'm protected. God loves me, and the universe provides.
Right.
The universe reflects back to me whatever I'm willing to show it. And I remember being broke. I remember being poor. And I remember being clueless. I was a very angry young man. People have a hard time believing it. People who know me now have a hard time believing it. Dude, you're so chill. You're always so positive about everything.
I can see it because I was in the same place myself. I used to be angry. I used to be bitter. I used to be upset, and like I said, now
I felt like I earned that.
Right.
I was ignorant about it because of course I was right.
Right. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I was going to say when you was talking about, the future versus now, is if you live in that mentality of someday I'll be successful, or someday I'll have money, or someday, I'll have what I need or what I desire. As long as you maintain that idea of someday, someday's never going to come.
I think Leonard Skinner has a song about it. Someday never comes.
Right, because you keep just pushing that off when you live in that mentality. It's one of those things that with the way that you think of laws of attraction and stuff, we're going to go over, and I don't care. Because I think there's still a couple of really important points to be made. Like, I see some of my friends out there saying, stuff along the lines of, I wish I could find someone who would love me, someone who would treat me right. I wish I could find a good partner, And these are things that they are desirable, and they say, well, someday someone will come along. And they talk about these things as things that they want, and the law of attraction is in effect with these things, and at the same time they're not expecting, I'll see these people say this, and then in almost the same sentence they'll say, well, but that person never exists, or I'll never find that person, they're not out there for me.
Say so.
Right.
You say so.
Right. And but then you also see him, well, maybe someday I'll find that person. and it's not that that person is out there for me. They just don't change that mentality, and it's funny because I I have an abundance of amazing people in my life who I get a lot of love, a lot of affection from, who I care for deeply. Now, granted, some of us are long distance. We don't get to hang out and spend time in person like we'd like to, but the those people are there. And those people showed up when I stopped thinking, well, someday I'll find someone who will love me. And I just said, you know what? I want love. I want affection. I want people who will care for me. I want people who will treat me well. And stop putting any other stipulations on it. You know, I didn't put stipulations on it of, well, I would like to meet a woman and I want her to be this tall and I want her to have this color hair and I want her to, do this and I want her to be interested in these things. I just said, I got to the point to where I said, you know what? I know there's someone out there for me and I'll connect with them when the time is right. And at the right time, I honestly reconnected with a very dear old friend of mine. And we have a very deep connection together. And it's just, it's one of those things. We're both working on things on our own time frame to get that union to come together more so. And what we're working right now is we're working on our own attractions for the things that we want to get in place before we do other things, before we take it to the next level. And that's what, one of the things that I want is to have that abundance coming in to where I can take care of her and her family.
And to speak to that, if you really care about somebody, don't you want to bless them with the best version of yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
You don't want. Now, I know some people like a project. It's a bad idea to be in. You don't want to bring a fixer upper into your life.
Unless it's a classic car.
Yeah. And so you don't want to bring the still needs a lot of work and the complaining and and lost and disconnected version of yourself.
Right.
You want to figure yourself out, and so that you have a solid and competent and confident version of yourself that you're
Absolutely.
bringing into the relationship.
And it's funny because my partner even said the same thing to me. As they said, hey, we both talked about some things, and she even said, hey, I need to take some time to work on things on me that I need to get into place and taken care of. She's realized that she's got things that she's got to heal through and things that she doesn't want to bring into the relationship. And I've even told her the same thing. From some of my past relationships, I got stuff I need to take care of to that I don't want to bring into the relationship because you don't deserve me bringing those things into the relationship.
Yeah, and that's healthy. My wife Tina and I, it probably would have been the healthier thing for us to do that. We ended up working on those things together. We um, thankfully we had enough patience with each other to put up with each other while we were figuring those things out. So it's not impossible. You
Right.
can't. It's not that you can't do those things together. But it probably would have been healthier if we had been more patient and we had waited and worked on those things on our own. Um, but honestly, a lot of the things that I know now are because um, I got together with my wife. So, uh, I don't know if I would have discovered some of those ideas and some of
I,
those
I,
the things that I talk about and the things that I use now. That was just the path that we took together.
absolutely, and it's one of those things that I've had people ask me, "Would you change your past if you could?" And there's been some bad points in the past and stuff, but at the same time, I said no because I learned lessons through that. I learned things from that path. I learned things going through that I would not have learned otherwise.
A
And
lot of things in the past
I,
were
and I,
painful and they sucked.
right. And I now have that knowledge to be able to take that knowledge forward and use that in working with other people.
You can't see the lesson in it, and you can't see the usefulness in it while you're in the middle of it.
Right.
I mean, most of the time, it's just the best you can do just to get through it. It is only looking back. They say hindsight is 20/20,
Right.
and when you're in the middle of awful things, it's not a particularly helpful thing to tell someone everything happens for a reason, and that's not going to be taken well.
Right. I have heard that while I was in the midst of some of my worst things going on, and you just want to look at the person and go, really, really.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I know. I wouldn't have. I don't take that well.
Yeah. Couldn't you have
Things that
said something else other than that? Anything else other than that?
but when I'm honest, and this is why when I'm honest with myself, I see a purpose in everything
Right.
in my past. I see a lesson in it. Um, I've lost things and thought, well, my life is just over now. I've lost people and thought, oh well, I can't bounce back from this. The world has changed. The world is different now. I'm different now. Um, but you know what? I was never as damaged as I thought I was.
Right.
I was never injured, and I was never really incapacitated the way I thought I was. But I couldn't see that at the time. I could only see it, after some time passed, and time does not heal all wounds, as they say. Understanding
I
heals.
saw something on that same subject the other day that said, people say it takes time to heal wounds, but energy can shift in a moment. And what that was saying is, right, okay, you might need time to heal some stuff, but if it's one of those things that you understand it and you get that energetic understanding of it, you understand it on that deep level.
And however it happens, what changes that energy
Right.
is your beliefs.
Right. And so that wound that's been festering can all of a sudden just be done and healed and taken care of once you have that aha moment. Once you have that paradigm shift that happens that changes your way of how you looked at it in one perspective to another. It's not, well, I'm gonna need 20 years to heal from this. No,
You say so.
if you want to make it that way, it can be that way. But I guarantee you've seen it in the work that you do with plant medicines, and I know I've seen it in the work I've done with some plant medicines and stuff. If someone gets that deep understanding, they get that aha moment, they get that moment of clarity where they see things in the right way. Stuff can shift right then and there.
And if they heal, it will be because they have changed their perspective.
Right.
They've changed their belief. And so here's our closer for the night. again, Josh, thanks so much for having me on the show. I always
Oh
appreciate
man,
it. Always great.
I love having you on the show. I can't wait for you to be back on again. We'll definitely have to talk about what days you might be free in May.
Sure.
I know things are starting to get busier and busier with everything you do with the Peaceful Mountain
Well,
Way and work.
I get busier. People want to travel. People want to
Exactly.
come more. So here's the closer, and this is one of the things that I remind people is that you cannot heal and maintain your current opinions at the same time. It can't be done.
Nope.
If if you're going to heal, you're going to forgive. If you're going to get over your past, if you're going to move into a state where you actually look forward to everything about life, it will because you changed your mind.
Absolutely. And that I mean that just really goes on with the things that we was talking about with the law of attraction and stuff today too, because it's in that changing of the way that you perceive things, what you draw to you. So if you want to attract that healing, you have got to change your mindset. You've got to change the way you believe to that
Order
healing.
of operations.
Right.
Order of operations. Of course, you want love and affection, and you want food and money to pay your bills and hugs and kisses and all that. But I guarantee you that you will feel great about all of those things, and those things will come into your experience more frequently when you change your mind first.
Yep.
I can
Absolutely.
watch people. I've watched people get exactly what they ask for materially, in their physical environmental situation. They get exactly what they asked for. They're still miserable.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean that goes to the whole thing of money can't buy happiness.
So you can't change what you do, you can't change how you feel, but you absolutely can challenge your beliefs. And if you change your beliefs, that will change what you feel, which will then change what you do, which will then change everything about what you experience. It's not that we're
Absolutely.
asking for the wrong things. It's not that we're trying to do the wrong things. It is that we're trying to do them in the wrong order.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Di-
well, guys, viewers, that's all I've got for you tonight. It's
Demian,
been
it's
all.
been a pleasure having you on here once again, brother. I always enjoy having you on the show, and we get into so much when we do these shows. And like I said, we'll definitely let everyone know when you're coming back on again. We'll talk a little later and get things planned out, as you know your schedule coming up and what days you're free.
I
Um,
will let you know as things come in. Right
I
now, I've got a late dinner waiting for me.
Absolutely. I do want to say that Thursday at 7 p.m. we're going to be back with the show. We're going to have Gene Collar with us, and we're going to be talking about spirituality, consciousness, and the connection to these things. And then next Tuesday on the 20th, Lauren Perkins will be with us again. She was on talking about. Lauren came on and she discussed healing from addiction through spirituality, and she's going to be on this time, and we're going to be talking. We're basically going to be doing an introduction to crystals. She's really into crystals and different gemstones and stuff like that, and on a metaphysical level and stuff. So she was wanting to come back on and discuss that. So we're going to be doing that, and then next Thursday, it's going to be at 5 p.m. Because he's overseas, so we need to do the show a little earlier. But I'm going to have Greg Mueller with us, and we're going to be discussing shadow work, which, right there is where a lot of healing really happens. So that's up on the table, and so that's the shows we have coming up for the next this week and next week, and then like I've said before, if you guys want to find out what Demian's up to, The link's right there. It'll also be in the YouTube description down below if you want to check and see what Demian's up to. If you want to join us on our Discord channel where we have the community for Breaking Reality, there's a link below for the Discord channel on Twitch. It's down in the panels, or it will be down in the description on YouTube when this goes up live on YouTube. So, just stay in contact with us. Let us know what's going on, what you're liking about the show. Let us know what you'd like to see coming up. And like I said, I talked about it a little bit tonight. There's going to be some big changes going on as far as setup and everything. We're still going to be having the guest on and doing things that way. It's going to look a little different in the future coming through.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. Hopefully most of it's going to be done tomorrow. So I'm getting my nephew over here. We're putting in the legwork and doing all the heavy lifting and stuff tomorrow and getting things all set up. So if everything goes as planned, Thursday night show, they'll look a little different.
Great. Well, good night, everybody, and be blessed.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us tonight on Breaking Reality, and we will see you guys later.